Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Kayla Andrade, co-host and also Ontario Landlords Watch. And tonight I have a special guest for you. And this is someone that we're listening to the viewers, and it's not just Ontario based, we're going Canada wide. And so tonight we are bringing you MacKenzie Wilson from Alberta Landlord Community. Thank you so much, MacKenzie, for coming onto the channel and giving our viewers exactly what they need to know about investing into Alberta. Now, before we get started, obviously there's going to be lots of questions I'm going to throw at you. I'm very Alberta is like my dream. It's like if I was going to invest in another province, Alberta would definitely be that province to invest in for many reasons. But I want everyone to get to know who you are first, and then we'll get into the concept of Alberta Landlord Community and how it got started. So take it away. Explain yourself to the viewers.
Great. Well, thanks, Andrea, for having me on the show, and quite frankly, thanks to Peter and Matt in the background for bringing me onto the YouTube channel. It's a super cool experience, and looking forward to what we can contribute to the group. So I find a lot of irony being here and getting this opportunity and talking for you guys, because when I got into real estate investing, had the biggest fear of becoming a landlord. It scared me just from top to bottom, scared me on my socks. It's something I never wanted to do. Well, not that I wanted to do, but I had a lot of fear and apprehension around it. So I made a goal of mine to make it my area of expertise by doing a lot of research. And that's how, fast forward, getting me back to here's how I've gotten here now. And landlording, again, ironically being on this investing channel, it's kind of like the ugly duckling, the black sheep in the room of the investing world. It's not really that sexy. It's not really that cool, but every rental property comes down to usually a buy and hold strategy, which relies on someone managing a property and looking after those tenants to make sure the property is in fact profitable and it succeeds. So I guess with that in mind, I was looking for what we now have called the Alberta Landlord Community. It's a fantastic community of about 3,500 landlords here in Alberta, and we share all the daily grinds of being a landlord and really those tips and tricks to make the business not only profitable but enjoyable. And yeah, it's really a good mix of timing and just, I guess, the right connection. So I joined this group, I'm trying to think now, was it 2 years ago, before COVID anyways. And at that time, my partner was running the page, Chris Noble. He's retired law enforcement, and I have a background in business and IT. And it just happened to be good timing, a good mix of personalities and skills. We kind of came together and we started this weekly live stream called the Alberta Landlord ShopTalk Show, and we just started tackling people's questions, and that's kind of where we are today. So it's been a fun adventure so far.
Now, how long you've been a landlord yourself?
Good question. So I've done it off and on since probably 2007. My parents had moved out and they kept the house for me for a bit, and I had rented out at that time. At that time, when I was going back to school, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about landlording. I got some roommates. They helped pay the rent, and kind of carried on from there. More officially, I got into it in the end of 2015 when I purchased my first property, which was my primary residence for my wife and I when we were pregnant with our first kid. And at that time, we built out a basement suite to kind of house hack or cut down the mortgage costs and all that good stuff.
So as you're getting into landlording, you realize that there's lots of unknowns and what ifs and how-tos and how to pick that good tenant. And that's when you guys decided to, meeting Chris. How did you meet Chris? Because I know we were trying to get Chris on the show tonight as well, just so that you can get to have his feel on the community. But now that you were able to come together with Chris and just thought he already had the group going, now it's like let's do our joint efforts in here to make this community grow.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to do my best to provide Chris's valuable point of view. So Chris did the typical thing as, hey, I'm just going to get some rental properties. I can get some renters in there, do this thing called passive income. It'll be easy, no active work. And of course, that wasn't the case. He got burnt a few times, got really annoyed and kind of frustrated with it, and created that Facebook group back in 2017. And then the way I met Chris, I joined the group. I had this YouTube channel because I was so nerdy about screening tenants. I created a specific YouTube channel on how to screen tenants because I thought that was so important. It's called Find Great Tenants at the time. It's now our Alberta Landlord Community YouTube channel. And I joined the group. I think the next morning I'm in IT and I was working, I was doing like a late change at night. I think I posted one of my YouTube videos on at like 1:30 in the morning. I woke back up and I wasn't even in the group no more. I couldn't even find YouTube. I got kicked out and I was blocked within 24 hours of being in the group. At that time, Chris had some other people helping moderate the group, and I reached out to Chris, and fortunately enough, he was willing to chat with me, and he was curious about what I was trying to do. He actually enjoyed the content, but another moderator had already made a decision. I was self-promoting, gave me the boot out of the group. He got me back in with it a few days later, and then the following week, that's kind of where I said, hey, Chris, we have an awesome community. At that time, we were just at 1,000 members. We need to provide more, and I kind of frankly wanted to have more conversations because I kind of nerd on the subject. I mean, I'm sure, Kayla, you could probably say the same thing. I know you've been landlording for a very long time. There's that need just to talk shop, right? How can I do this business better? Like, I know what I know, but I'm sure it's only the tip of the iceberg. I want to know what other people's processes and approaches are to different challenges of being a landlord are, and I want to learn from what you've done in the past so I can perhaps prevent or save from making a mistake in the future that could cost me money. So I wanted to have that conversation.
That's
and yeah, just wanted to start talking about it, and Chris saw the value. I'm like, so Chris, I'm going to do this thing called a live stream. All you have to do is get this link and sign up. He's not very technical. He's like, all right, we'll do it. And sure enough, we got his webcam figured out and his mic, and the show's been going strong ever since. And at that
and not
point,
just
now,
inside the show, like not just your shows in itself, but when there's comments, like if this is about the community that you're forming here, and this is why I really wanted our viewers to know that this is a community that you're going to have multiple discussions about different type of topics that everyone can chime in on and ask their questions and learn from experienced landlords, because your group is not just for the newbie landlords. It's actually for the new ones, the ones that come in by accident, and the ones that are very experienced. So it's going to have a nice roundhouse of investors to really contribute into helping, because the one thing that we can see right across Canada is that there's not a lot of support, and if we can bring a support group that is available to investors so that they can have that one-on-one, and it's almost like AA if you look at it, just to be able to vent online in a nice safe community, because it's being policed and controlled in a nice environment, that it's not hostile, and that you guys are very supportive with each other. And your topics are going to range from what is now and what's happening, and also how do you support your members one-on-one? Do you do one-on-one talks with them over the phone or consultations type of deal, or it's more self-managing because the members are connecting to each other?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, Kayla, so I'm going to go 5 talking points back because I want to add as much value as I can. So we'll start from what you just mentioned. I'll kind of go back and perhaps guide me along the way so we're not missing the point of the ones you brought up, because I think you brought up a lot of really good points. Yeah, so it is such a community. It is definitely has to be like a safe space for sure. I always when I looked at landlording, why I think it's probably one of the more challenging professions you can pick out there is one, you're taking a large financial sum of money, a big, large capital investment to buy a rental property. Typically, when people are intentionally getting into this career as a profession. And then not only do you have to make sure you don't lose that money, manage it properly, and buy the right investment property and all the things behind that scene, then you bring in the aspect of, okay, now I'm providing a home for a rental property that someone's going to call a home for the tenant, and you got to manage that tenant relationship and work with them, and those are such completely different competing, but they both can make someone quite anxious, or it could be quite stressful if you don't have the right approach or tools to do both those things at the same time. So it's like this juggling act of great customer service, making sure this tenant's paying, because at the end of the day, you could have the best rental property out there with all the amenities, close to public transit, post-secondary education, perhaps a large workforce, companies, an industrial or whatever. But if it's a perfect property and no one's paying rent, that property still loses money. And it's so critical to do that due diligence up front to bring the right tenant in place. So that balancing act of being a landlord, I think, is one of the most daunting and challenging professions. And then that's why where this group really came from. And then you mentioned as well, as I'm trying to rack through my brain here, is we have two types typically two types of people joining our group. We have the intentional landlords, the investors. They realize, this is part of my long-term investment strategy within real estate. I'm going to have a bit of a portfolio of buy and hold. And I understand I have to manage tenants. So I better learn the rules. I better learn how to do my due diligence up front. I better learn how to deal with disputes, all those things that come with managing rental properties. And then there's the other folks that, for some reason they can't sell, whether they're underwater, they've moved to another area and they've got to rent out their house. There's a number of reasons why someone's almost gets kind of forced, or they've decided that landlording is the best choice right now and renting out that property. So they're what we would call our accidental landlords. So we certainly have these two different train of thoughts that come in the community. But again, it is really that inclusive community. And part of what you said about policing and maintaining that community is we have an engaged community that talks and is willing to share, because it sucks when you go in and be like, listen, I think I already know my mistake. I let this person in and now I've got $6,000 worth of missing rent, $2,000 worth of damage from a pet in the house that I didn't know about. You got to feel comfortable to be able to put yourself in a vulnerable position and share that within the community. And that's something that we recognize is so important. We need to protect that. And we've gone to great lengths to make the community landlords only, because we know if you get the other side of the fence in there with the tenants or potential tenants in there, it gets become a really toxic conversation, and you don't get those collaborative, constructive conversations you need to get the lessons learned, to share those best practices to move forward. And there's certainly those places already out there on the internet that need to happen. Like I've been a renter as I've been a landlord too, and people need to learn that part of the process too. I mean, learning to rent is a skill in its own. I'm sure we can talk about that further. That's next. I know you have so much. You started off with that YouTube channel. Is about that screening the tenants. We have different rules and regulations that we have to follow. We know that there's so many penalties and problems that could come by getting the wrong tenant in. Now, what is your tips and tricks and the start process? If it's right down to how you advertise your rental unit, the first interaction with the tenants, if it's through Messenger or phone, how do you screen your tenants? Okay, great. Well, let's do some role playing here. Do you want to be a prospective tenant calling me? I have a beautiful property downtown Calgary. It's great for that young professional, and you've just moved to the city, and you're asking questions about my rental property. And I'm happy to take any objections and work through them with you, and challenge me on a phone call. We should do that. Do you want to do that? Are we going to just do? Do you want to do
I think we're going to have a rehearsing on that one, because I could be like.
This is impromptu. I just thought of this now. Actually, our shop talk tomorrow is all about role playing and working through these challenging conversations that I know a lot of new landlords, and I was certainly one of them. My heart used to race in my chest when I talked to tenants, and I was like, so when do you want to move? And I'd be quivering at the voice and stuff. But a little bit of practice and repetition and seeing how people handle the conversation could probably be beneficial, maybe.
Well, okay. So you're putting me to the challenge. I wanted to do some tenant screening. Yeah. So, hi, MacKenzie. I'm calling about your 2-bedroom, 1-bath with 1-car parking. What is the process of me coming to take a look at that rental unit and applying for it? We're going to have MacKenzie on again, because I know I'm not done with him yet. You can tell by his answers that he has so much to say to us, and I know I really want to get into how to deal with the tenant dispute. That is we're going to do whatever we can to do the tenant screening, but again, we have good tenants that go bad, and I know that MacKenzie is going to have a breakdown of how a dispute is handled within Alberta and how long it would actually take to evict a tenant. So make sure you tune in for the next video. Until then, MacKenzie, how can someone find you, to find your community, to be a part of it, and to continue to help grow Alberta Landlord Community? Because I think what you guys are doing is fantastic, and the support is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, Kayla. Thanks for the time on the show. Really appreciate it. Yeah, let's get into it. So if you guys want to find where we exist, we kind of exist in 3 different places. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we have our own private social community as well. Our YouTube channel is under our old banner name, findgreattenants.com, tenants with an S. If you click there, that will redirect you right to our YouTube channel, because our YouTube channel is very hard to remember. It's just a bunch of numbers. If you go to Alberta Landlord Community.ca, That's our private website. We've got our discounts. We have our own private conversation. It's kind of a more of a deeper dive or a leveraging point from going from Facebook. As much as we all love Facebook, it's a platform that we don't have full control over. So we also have this other community called Alberta Landlord Community.ca, and it's a super powerful tool. So check that out. And then on Facebook, if you guys want to look up our Facebook group, you go to search groups and do Alberta Landlord Community. You'll see my beautiful mug up with Chris Noble on the front of the page, and apply on the group. You do note though, because we are very diligent in who we let in, all the questions do need to be answered, and don't be surprised if a admin or a moderator reaches out to you to clarify further, because again, we probably only let about, of all the people that apply in the to get into our group, we let in about 50%, because most of the time they aren't landlords, and so we're very diligent around that to keep that conversation productive and non-toxic.
So if you guys are watching and you're a landlord, what about our property managers? Our property managers are allowed in too, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone that manages a rental property in Alberta can be let in. We do both residential and commercial. We don't have a lot of commercial folks on them, but there are some that do have those conversations as well. But yeah, okay. Residential rentals in Alberta, we're the place to be.
So we'll make sure we'll put the links where you can find MacKenzie and Chris inside of the Alberta Landlord Community. If you're looking to find me, Kayla Andrade on Facebook, as well as Ontario Landlords Watch members group, as well as our public page, which is Ontario Landlords Watch. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and even LinkedIn. Want to make sure that we're covering as many platforms to make sure that we're available to help our landlords in Ontario to navigate through the Residential Intensive Act and Landlord and Tenant Board, and to really work together as a fair and balanced housing system for good landlords and good tenants. And we're also going to put the link for Landlord Credit Bureau /rent lobby, so that you're able to take advantage and start rent reporting for your good tenants, as well as knowing that there is accountability for your tenants. If they don't pay rent, you're also able to report that and also do the collect. So we'll put that into the comments below. Until then, subscribe, share the video, and just know that the Canadian Real Estate Channel is here to make sure that we are providing you with as much content as we possibly can to help you thrive as a Canadian real estate investor, no matter where you are in Canada. We want to thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned to our next video.
Thanks for having us.